host Drew, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Mike. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Drew. How about yourself? How's your week going?
It's good. My pinched nerve in my back is almost back to normal, so that's nice. And I
Excellent.
didn't need surgery, so I am pretty stoked as the kids
Even,
say. Yeah,
even better. God,
yeah,
surgery sounds miserable. So
yeah. When I was walking weird from the pinched nerve wasn't much fun either. But anyways, we're not here to talk about my injuries today. We're here to talk about the injuries to the careers of everyone that was cut from an NFL roster, most notably the Detroit Lions roster today. But first, we have news and notes from around the NFL. Mike?
well, first, before we pop into that, I want to say, give a shout out to
All right.
Bob Bear, our new subscriber. So appreciate you, Bob. Thanks for popping in and subscribing. And everybody else, appreciate you guys too. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, tell your friends, all that stuff. We're slowly but surely growing, and it's all because of you guys. And Drew's beautiful beard. I can't compete. But yes,
Right.
let's move to news and notes around the NFL. What do we got going around the NFL?
Well, so I think there's a couple things to mention. First of all, we should start with like players being traded, and the biggest name out there that was traded so far was Ernest Jones from the Rams. He's now been traded to the Titans for he and a sixth pick went, and they got a fifth rounder back. So, which I continue to be shocked at how little some players get traded for, because like he's a legit linebacker. Like he had a run defense grade last season of 90.
He was
He had
good.
like a coverage grade in the high 80s. I mean, like the guy is a solid player, and Tennessee got him for a song. So
Yeah, essentially they downgraded their fifth to a sixth and got him for free, right? So I think ultimately I think this is his contract year, and I don't think LA wanted to hand him the bag, and they said we'll free up some roster space, get upgrade a draft asset, and kind of go from there. And yeah, they didn't get much in return.
I think you could probably well, I'll look him up here real quick, but like I think you could probably argue that this is the why is it not doing the thing that I wanted to? There it is. So I think you could probably argue that the Rams are in the final kind of stages of their fuck them picks era.
Yeah.
Like this is a guy that as soon as I can bring him up on on pff.com here, in all kinds of a way here. Ernest Jones. There he is. He is his draft year was 2021. So he's going into, I believe, his third season. I'll confirm that here. But fourth season. But he is a legit linebacker who came into his own last season. He started off poorly as a rookie with a 59 overall grade. He bumped that up 4 points to a 63 in 2022, and then that got bumped up almost 20 points to an 83 overall with a run defense of 90 last season when he played almost 1,000 snaps. He played 932 snaps. So this guy looks like a linebacker in the prime of his career, or about to hit it, as a really productive player. And I mean, even if you pay him like a top 10 linebacker, you might get him for 10, 11 million bucks a year, 12 million bucks a year, and like Tennessee's a rebuilding team. Seems like they would do well for themselves to add qualified, excellent players. And he seems to be. So hopefully that works out for both sides.
Yeah.
So, let's see. He was a third round pick, and the Rams got one great year out of him, 3 years that he was on their roster, and now they're getting a fifth round pick for him. That's not too shabby. So,
yep. And they're shedding some salary. And well, they're not shedding a ton because he's on his rookie contract, but he's not going to have to get the bank next year.
That's right. They don't have to pay him, right? So he's not going to be a second contract guy for them. There were some other trades. Green Bay traded for Malik Willis to be Jordan Love's backup, which I thought was fascinating. They didn't really have anybody else on the
rounder,
roster.
right?
Yeah, it was. I mean, this was here you go. But like, I thought that was interesting. Chicago has made a number of trades to add pieces for depth in and around the NFL. I don't know if it's anybody notable, but like they have made moves. Like Chicago, I think Chicago feels like they can challenge for the division or a playoff berth. I think that's what they think right off the bat. Like they are making moves that seems like they are. We don't want year 2 of Caleb Williams to be the year that we push. We're going to try and push right now.
We're 4-0. We're undefeated with Caleb Williams.
Might as well.
Let's go. He's looked stellar though.
He has looked real good. I mean,
yeah.
And the reason that I say that he has looked good in the preseason is not because he is just like lighting things up, but because from what I have seen, and most of this comes from JT, former quarterback, played for the Niners. His first name's JT O'Sullivan, I think his name is. He has a YouTube channel called, I think it's called the QB Show, where he breaks down film of a bunch of different quarterbacks every week. And I watched a couple of his first couple games that he broke down Caleb Williams, good and bad. And the things that the reason I say that Caleb Williams is good is because he's like a year ahead of where you should be on some of these things, like footwork, pocket presence, that kind of thing. Like if he can just clean up the little things, I think that he's going to be good sooner rather than later. And that's of course bad for Lions fans because you don't want good quarterbacks in the division. And I do have a couple of NFL related news. If you've got any more player related news that you want to go with.
Nothing big. CD Lamb got paid like a lot of money.
Was it 34?
34 average base AAV, average annual value. So that puts him number 2. And I think that dropped St. Brown to number 5 in the AAV race to the top. So CeeDee Lamb got a boatload of money. Brandon Ayuk,
nothing's happened.
Still the same situation.
He was in,
but it's crazy.
He was in street clothes their last preseason game. So,
yeah, I'm kind of curious how much of it might be a Chris Jones-esque thing, like the Chiefs had last year with Chris Jones. Held out, missed a...
Well,
yeah.
Go ahead.
He wanted to set the, he wanted to break the bank, and he eventually did, but it took him to... they missed our game last year, week 1. Maybe he missed week 2, or maybe, I don't remember. Either way, he missed at least one game. They finally went, okay, enough's enough. Let's just do this thing. And I wonder if he's going to get the same treatment in San Francisco and be like, I'm legit not playing week 1. And then after that, either they find a thing to deal with him or they're going to sign him. Because I don't think you want to go too long without someone of his caliber. Sup, Kath?
Breaking news. Well, 30 minutes ago, the Lions have signed the one guy that I wanted them to sign after cuts were announced. Tim Patrick, welcome to the Detroit Lions. This is fantastic.
Tim Patrick, interesting. Okay.
Tim Patrick is a 6'3", 215-pound wide receiver that was on the Denver Broncos roster, who has had the last couple of years riddled with injuries. So he sounds like a Detroit Lion already, right? Like aging vet coming off of an injury, trying to revive his career. We got a home for you in Detroit.
Sign me up.
So I am thrilled that is because they're signing him to the practice squad with the idea that he's going to work his way to the main roster. But like, if that's not your starting X receiver by week 2 or 3, I'd be shocked. This is great.
Well, I think our wide receiver room is pretty rough. So,
well, it may have broke nearly an hour ago, but I just got it. So it's new to me.
Gosford repair. Appreciate you popping in. You're new to my eyeball, so thanks for joining in. But yeah, so that was, I mean, Ayuk, CeeDee Lamb, and outside of that, I got nothing else until we start talking about Lions and injury updates and all that kind of stuff.
So
Shefty. Yeah.
I have, I follow him. I just don't get immediate notifications from him on Twitter.
Oh, come on, man.
I mean, I follow Ian Rappaport and there's another one, Tim Pellisario, and a bunch. But like, I just have all. If I followed all those guys and got all the notifications, my goddamn phone would go off constantly. You know,
especially
and
Schefter.
I have to put my phone down and do my job or live my life every once in a while. Yeah. So, well, that's great. I mean, I don't need to know right away. So
that's cool though.
Cool. But two things. There was a rule change before the competition committee that was going to allow that third quarterback to be kept on the practice squad with an unlimited. I'm not the last to know, dude. That's just not true. Like, there's people finding out.
I am. Now.
Yeah, Mike was after I was.
I was the last one to know.
Yeah. So, checkmate. Yeah. But
what's this Twitter thing? I've never heard of such a thing.
Oh, it's called X now because Elon Musk is a raging megalomaniac. Right. So the NFLPA has nixed a rule that would change that emergency third quarterback stipulation to allowing that third quarterback to exist on your practice squad with unlimited elevations over the course of the season if needed.
Right.
So they want that quarterback to be on your 53-man roster, which makes sense because then you're guaranteed a spot. So we've only had it for like a year, I believe. And it looks like that rule will be staying as it was into the future, at least for the next upcoming season. And the other piece of news that I read for the NFL this week is that they have developed a new tool and metric system for determining the playing surface of NFL stadiums. Really? So they have some type of tool, and the system I believe is called CLEGG, CLEGG, and it is used to determine the density of the playing surface. And then so before each game, they have to check the density of the playing surface, and it has to fall inside of a certain range. And I don't know what happens if it's too hard or too soft, but like it's supposed to allow for continuity of the shoes that everybody wears and the type of cleats that everybody wears. So they want the cleat to be able to penetrate whatever surface they're playing on to a degree where it makes it effective, but doesn't give some players an advantage over other players. So that tool and system is going to go into effect in the 2025 season and is being tested in 2024.
Like NFL rules will require the CLEGG readings between 50 grams and 100 grams for a surface to be approved for play. It sounds very scientific. Never heard of such a thing, but I think there was a lot of complaints over the frozen field in Carolina. And it was harder than hell. And I think they had like 2 or 3 bigger injuries that game because people were slipping and twisting ankles and all of that kind of stuff. So I think that was a big piece of why this became moved more to the forefront was that game in particular, but that wasn't the only one. There were several games like that with those frozen fields. And you're like, I can't cut. I don't have the cleats for it. Or I have to get like longer cleats that then dig in more and you're more likely to catch and turn an ankle. So we want to make sure that those guys can go out there, do their thing without breaking themselves because we want to watch them play. We don't want to watch them on the sidelines in a boot.
So I recently watched a 45-minute little documentary from NFL Films about the 99 Rams and their greatest show on turf or whatever. And they were talking about, Marshall Faulk was talking about like he was born to play on that surface.
Yeah.
You know, and so in the documentary, they show the turf and it's like that thick and it's on concrete.
It's like cement, right?
It's on concrete. Like it's like, it would be like being tackled onto concrete that a rug is over. I mean, it just sounds awful. I mean, can you imagine going knees
And
first?
that's where the Silver Dome was.
Oh,
the Silver Dome was that way.
That just sounds horrible. I mean, I understand why NFL players are upset about playing surfaces. I mean, I wouldn't want to play in Chicago either. But like
in general,
I mean, this is an NFL organization that $100,000 of lawn care equipment stolen from their fucking stadium last year. I mean, they're
Did
really.
They ever end up getting that back? Have you heard?
I couldn't believe they let it out into the media. I mean, I think they probably had to fire like a police report or something, and that's probably how the reporter got a hold of it. But just unbelievable that like they could lose $100,000 worth of equipment and the stadium still looks like that. I know they're getting a new stadium in the near future, but like, oh God, that is just no one should play outdoors anymore ever. Like the only teams that should be allowed outdoor stadiums are like Arizona, Miami, maybe. I mean, I know New Orleans plays in a dome, but like if you are in a city in the South that has like temperate weather in the fall and into the early winter, like you could be allowed it. And even Miami, they have one game.
Yeah, they get rain.
Just a torrential downpour.
Yeah, they get rain. Like Arizona, don't worry, it's in a desert. There's no rain. It's gonna be dry. Let's do it.
Super Bowl should be held there almost every single year. I mean, they get it very often. So
yeah.
So like this will hopefully help with the playing surface scenario. But that's my last piece of news and notes. Let's get to the Lions. We're 16 minutes in.
We're 16 minutes in. Yeah, let's talk about Lions injuries because we had some in the preseason, and a lot of key guys were a little bit scary. So we'll start. I'm going to throw some stuff up here. Cornerback Emmanuel Mosley was put on IR with designation to return, so he is eligible to come back this season. But for the third year in a row, something like that, he is hurt again. And it's not looking
Detroit for sure.
Yep. And then on the guys that we care about most, our more important starters: Jahmyr Gibbs, Laporta, Terry and Arnold, like all of these guys went out of practices, and they've been out of practice for a while. But Campbell specifically said, hey, these dudes are back from injury. They were at walkthrough practice yesterday. And they are expected to be playing in week 1, with the exception of DJ Reader, who I believe is expected back for week 2. Though there was so speaking of DJ Reader, shout out to him. He hosted a back to school drive for local children who could not afford school supplies. So I love when our players are reaching out to the community and doing cool stuff like this. And I'm sure he put a boatload of his money into the school drive and buying supplies for underprivileged kids. And being someone that works in schools, this was awesome. So I want to give a shout out to DJ. But those were the big injuries that are not as bad as we feared, and they'll be back sooner rather than later. Did you have any other injuries that we haven't covered?
No.
Not really? Awesome.
I don't think so. Not on the Lions.
Not on the Lions. Other bigger injuries around the league? No. All right. We don't care about them anyway.
Yeah.
Unless I know. So the Rams have both of their tackles are out for week 1 against us.
Lamar Jackson was back at practice yesterday.
Was he? Yeah. One of them suspended for the first 2 games, I think.
Well, the other one came back to practice.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see whether they end up. I believe they're both supposed to be out for week 1, but we'll see. We got 10 days.
Back to Detroit, you missed it. I'm fucking ecstatic. I think it's great. I even did I did this. I went like this. So, yeah, I'm pretty stoked.
Yeah. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how what their offensive line looks like, because they actually finally had a decent offensive line with their tackles and a Villa in there, and they grabbed Jonah Jackson. Like, they actually have a solid offensive line, but I love the fact that against us, at least, their 2 tackles will likely not be playing. So,
Yeah. Like Aiden Hutchinson is just licking his fucking lips.
oh, I know. Like, and that was one of the things that, like, if you remember, I actually picked us to lose that game in part because they were better on the offensive line. Their defense has improved quite a bit. They got a couple dudes on the defensive line to. I mean, no one takes Donald's place, but like I thought that they were going to potentially beat us as far as their offense versus our new secondary. But God, if Hutch can get there faster because he's going up against their backups, I might have to revisit that. So,
yeah, it'll be fun to watch. I hope Hutch gets off to a great start. That would be amazing for him. So,
yep. Can't go 17-0 if you don't win the first one.
It's very difficult. History has shown.
Yeah.
So
you want to talk about preseason, the game 3?
Yeah, let's do that. We can talk.
And then we could kind of move from that to the 53-man roster.
I mean, who doesn't want to hear about a third preseason game where none of the starters play?
That's not true. A bunch of Pittsburgh starters played.
Sure. Yes, they
played.
Yep, that's right. I remember I sat down to watch the game on NFL.com, and I started it out. I started watching it, and I was like, "That's Russell Wilson." Hey, isn't that? Oh, they're playing their ones, and I looked at like who we had, and I was like, "Oh, we're playing our threes."
Yeah, 1v3.
It looked like it the first couple drives. So
yeah, our offensive line, like some of the takeaways I had were our third string offensive line is not good enough to go against anybody's first string or second string offensive or defensive lines.
Yeah.
And it was ugly. We couldn't do anything. They let them through like Swiss cheese, like a colander. I don't know, something.
Well, Hooker got sacked 5 times in the game and that was just during the time that he was in. So, and I don't think Fromm was sacked, but yeah.
I will say Fromm played well when he finally got in there. Like I thought he was a big step up from what Sudfeld did, but definitely not as good as what Hooker did. I thought Hooker played pretty well, especially considering the offensive line with Swiss cheese.
The thing that I walked away from this preseason watching Hendon Hooker play is exactly the kind of quarterback I want to watch play football. That is when I think about what a quarterback should do, how they should play, he fits the definition. Like he is big, he has a big arm, and like the 2 games that I watched where he played the most, I have one super big critique of Hendon Hooker, and that's to stop getting fucking hit. But he's, this is his first action in the NFL, and so I'm sure he's trying to do everything he can to get every yard, but like, okay, stop getting hit. You already got a concussion once this preseason. Like, big arm, makes the right throws. I didn't see him make egregious errors. Like he stayed in the pocket, looked downfield, and if that wasn't there, he was a threat with his legs. Loved it. I absolutely loved it. I'm thrilled that he's the backup.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously going to be a step down from where Goff is to where Hooker is, but it's not falling off the cliff like it has been the previous couple years. Right? If we had to rely on, who was it, David Blau,
sure.
Nick, Sudfeld, like if we had to rely on that, I just have no faith that we will win any games. But I do believe Hooker at least gives us a chance.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I like about Hendon Hooker is he gives a dimension. Yeah, he's certainly nowhere near as polished as Jared Goff. Jared Goff might be one of the more polished quarterbacks in the entire NFL. But like he adds, in my opinion, 2 dimensions that Jared Goff doesn't have. Now, Jared Goff is excellent at the thing that he does, which is intermediary throws, timing intermediary throws. But like Hendon Hooker can throw the ball down the field. So like Jameson Williams can run a 9 route and he can damage you with his legs. So I think if the worst were to happen, being that Jared Goff is not able to play, I think that the playbook changes for Hendon Hooker. and the offense does not look exactly the same as it would with Jared Goff in there, that it becomes the Hendon Hooker version of the Detroit Lions offense. But we didn't get to see him play with St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, the starting offensive line. It was just him because he's a backup. So like, it would be very interesting to see what the Detroit Lions offense looked like for a half of football or something, where the only difference is, maybe if Jared Goff isn't hurt, but like you could just play Hendon Hooker for a half or something like that. I would be really interested to see what that looks like, because I'll bet like if he's going to run some kind of like option read with Jahmyr Gibbs, that would be pretty cool. I mean, I think I would enjoy that quite a bit. So
it would be fun to watch.
I did not like in the game that the very first kickoff, the Lions missed the landing zone and they had to give the ball to the Steelers on the 40-yard line. How can that happen? I don't understand how that can happen. Like, to me, it says...
We had another one that went out of bounds. Like, he kicked it in the landing zone, but it hit by the line and bounced out of bounds before it got...
The special teams in the preseason have been horrendous. Horrendous. And like, for a unit that was very good last year, like, we are deep and it showed.
Yeah.
But you can't go into the season and like give back stuff like this. Like, you can't let teams start on the 40. Like, that's like 2 first downs that you're just spotting them. Let's not do that. So I have all the hope in the world that the defense is going to be better. Jack Campbell is going to step into his role. The 2 rookie corners, I think, are going to be quite good. A lot more depth in the secondary and like continuity. And, Brian Branch is a year older. You add a DJ Reader at some point during the season. Like, if he plays 10 or 12 games, I'll be thrilled. I just think there's a lot more, like,
a lot more potential too, right?
Solid stuff on the defense this year.
We've built that baseline and we keep building on that foundation, and we have fewer holes, we have fewer dips in like our quality level and our play quality level, start to finish throughout the lineup. People that made our roster in previous years wouldn't even sniff our roster right now because
they didn't make
our barrier to entry.
Yeah, they didn't make a lot of other NFL rosters.
Yeah.
You want to go
and our barrier to entry is so much harder right now.
Yeah. Like, Araraway got cut from the Jaguars. Julian Okwara got cut from the Eagles. Jerry Jacobs got cut from the Rams. Like, the only guy that I know, I saw Anthony Pittman got cut from the Steelers. There are guys out there who were on this Lions team last year who are not making NFL rosters this year. Yep. Jeff Okudah made the Texans list. Not many of the other guys I just said were number 3 overall picks. So right. I think it's going to show that even the guys that we've had on the back end of the roster, that back end is getting a lot better, or at least younger or cheaper. I think the Rams just got Jerry to get info on us for week 1. Wouldn't put it past them. I'm not sure that I would ever have Jerry Jacobs on a roster that I was in charge of. But
their secondary is not good over in LA. They're trying to do anything they can do to boost that. Last year it was pretty bad. They've improved it a little bit, but not so much they couldn't at least take a look to see if Jerry Jacobs was there. Dr. D, that they definitely need help on the back end there.
Yes, not good. So, and they're not. Jerry Jacobs isn't going to help them. And I believe that they had a kid on their roster. He went to Jacksonville for a couple of years, and now he's back. Is it Darius Williams? He's hurt. It's just. Oh, what up? Yeah, Sunny Cali, nice. Hatters, you don't know what you're missing. It is not only humid. It's 96 here. So take that.
Yeah.
Now our gas prices were like $3.30, so that's better than, I'm assuming, California, where I believe it's $1 higher. But you know, but you can't help where you live, right? So,
I mean, you can. You kind of.
Michael,
No, never mind. No,
you can't do
can't.
it. It's not possible. So, yeah. So what I'm saying with the roster is that I think that, you know, our threes against the Pittsburgh Steelers ones is not going to look good, nor did it.
Yep.
But like, I also don't think that they were unbelievably terrible. I mean, like when Pittsburgh put in their twos, like the game got even quick, you know?
Yeah.
So, all right. Yeah.
These are the grades. Yeah. So these are our offensive grades. Our guards had decent scores. I can't imagine our tackles are up there. Sorsdal on the right. Yeah, a lot of the pressure came from the left. That makes sense. Where's our left tackle? There he is. I was like, a lot of that pressure came from the left side. It was not good.
He is
Peoples Jones.
Yeah.
He was the guy that I called. Now that Kadarius Toney's a free agent to Lions. Oh, good God. He's not my child. He's adopted. Donovan Peoples Jones. I kind of called on that one. Like he was just not impressing me, and he was on the cut list, which we'll kind of talk about later.
You know,
Mitchell played terrible.
The weird thing about him, about DPJ, is that it didn't look like he cared.
Yeah.
I mean, it just looked like he was coasting through the game. And like, I mean, there were a couple of throws. I mean, you know, I think he only got targeted like 3 times, but like 2 of them were not close. So I don't really know what you were hoping to do, but like there just seemed to be a lack of urgency to his play. So a lot of guys.
Yeah, and I think I read. Yeah, I think I read that one of our rookies actually called him out during practice about running the wrong route.
Oh, it's Isaiah Williams who made the roster.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I thought he would. He was the guy that I'm like, I think he was my preseason crush, and I thought that would be one of those bubble guys. So, but Alexander played well, Burton played well, Clemens, like Hooker played 71.7 is nothing to sneeze at, especially when the rest of your squad, at least while their ones were in, got ran over. So I thought he played well. Caden Davis looked well again. I didn't see if he made the squad or not.
He did not make the squad.
That's a bummer. I thought he played well this preseason. On the defense, let's see what we got here.
Oh,
Houston played really well.
Ty Summers got cut.
Summers. Joel I.
Yep, he's
Joel
the guy
I.
He's the guy that said I couldn't pronounce his name. He got cut.
Unpronounceable. Yep. Mackay Wingo played well. Like we had some decent plays, right? I mean, there's a good chunk that was under 60.
Hey, Broderick Martin, welcome to the show.
Yeah.
No, Broderick Martin, number 19 on the list there.
Yeah. 40.3.
Yeah.
But we had some guys that really stood out. We had some guys that really stood out. So I thought overall it was a dub, right? So we got the win, which means nothing.
Don't care. Yeah.
The Lions went 4-0 the year that they went 0-16. So right. Preseason means literally nothing. But
I know they won at least 2 games in the preseason this year. So
yeah, we went 2-1, right?
I think so.
I think
they lost to the Chiefs, right? No,
we beat the Chiefs.
They won that on a last-second field goal. They beat the Steelers by 3. Who else? Who did we play in the middle?
No, we played the Giants in week 1. Did we play
the Giants?
3-0? Yeah,
I'm looking it up.
Yeah, we played them week 1 because that was our.
Yeah, so lost to the Giants 14-3.
Okay, yeah.
Beat the Chiefs 24-23. Beat the Steelers 24-17.
Yeah. So and the best part is our depth guys that we are keeping got out of it injury free, because that's really the win, is when you get out injury free.
Yeah, I wonder. So I mean, we say that, right? And then like I hear you tell me a story about how St. Brown played last season with a fucking muscle ripped off of his leg or
His
something.
oblique, pulled right off the muscle.
So I mean,
off
like,
the bone.
Gross. I mean, like, I've torn my bicep. I mean, there's not a ton of pain, but your arm just doesn't work the same.
Yeah.
So like, because your ligaments need to be attached to your bones to make sure everything bends and you can do this.
Right.
Kind of thing,
Yeah. And do
so
this.
Like, the fact that he, can played with that kind of injury all season and just manage whatever pain there was is ridiculous to me. Like, absolutely ridiculous. And you didn't hear about it. I mean, he never showed up on the injury report for that, did he?
Yeah, it wasn't enough to keep him off. So then they're like, you can't put him on an injury report if you know that he's not going to be coming off the field.
So I was surprised. But should we, since you've got the list up, I've got the list of cuts as of 7 p.m. Eastern. You want to go through the list, or do you want to say stuff about the game still?
No, that's good. We can do that. I'll pop that over there.
All right.
Detroit Lions.
So I'm just going to go by position since that's how NFL.com did it. These are the Lions that were cut.
All right, I'll pop
most of them today, right? Jake Fromm, which was a bummer because I thought that he looked pretty good in his 1 series or 2 series that he played. Nate Sudfeld, not a surprise. Running backs that were cut: Jake Funk, Jamar Jefferson, who played really well, I thought. Zonathan Knight, who also played well. For whatever reason, they stuck a cornerback right here in the middle of this list. His name is Javelin Guidry. He got cut. Wide receivers are Maurice Alexander, Jalen Calhoun, Caden Davis, Doris Fountain, DPJ, and Tom Kennedy. So that means that Isaiah Williams, that itty-bitty spark plug Firefly guy, made the roster.
He looked really good.
Yeah, he did.
Fast. He did the things that he needed to do. I was excited to watch him.
Yeah, he was. So I had 3 UDFAs that I thought would make the roster. 1 got cut before the preseason, 1 got cut today, and 1 made the roster. So I'll take 1 for 3 on UDFAs. Tight ends that were cut: Sean McKeon, no surprise. James Mitchell, not really a surprise. The surprise, and maybe the biggest surprise for me on this entire list, is Shane Zylstra. So the only guy that's left on the roster, the 4th tight end, I believe, is a dude named Parker Hesse, who is an H-back. Yeah. Type
Parker
of guy.
Hesse, Sam Laporta, and Brock Wright.
That is a shocker to me, that dude. I'm absolutely shocked.
I kind of want to go back and like rewatch the condensed version on NFL Plus to figure out who's this Parker Hesse guy. Yeah, I don't remember him like sticking out. So
offensive linemen that were cut: Duke Clemens, Brian Hudson, Kingsley Aguakun, who were, I believe, all 3 of their UDFA center signings. I thought Kingsley Aguakun would make the roster. Brian Hudson, Jake Burton, and Jamarco Jones were all cut. Jamarco Jones is not really a surprise. He played well, I think, in the 2nd preseason game against the Chiefs. But, he came in and played, during the 2nd preseason game. That was his only time on the roster. I just don't know that he had enough time, to really make his case. D linemen that were cut: David Bada, who I believe you said is injured.
I believe so.
Matthew Betts, the CFL standout pass rusher. Pat O'Connor, Kyle Pecco, which I thought was an interesting cut. Chris Smith and Isaac Ukwu, who I thought also played well during the preseason. So none of those guys made it.
Yeah, Bada is on the waived/injured list. So I'm guessing he had no injury guarantee in his contract.
Sure. Linebackers: Mitchell Aguda, Abraham Boplan, Duron Gilbert, Joel last name, Malik Jefferson, and Ty Summers were all cut. So that leaves, let me see, do you have it up here? No.
I can. Who are we looking at?
Linebackers.
Campbell, Anzalone.
They kept Ben Nyman. Okay, that's the guy. They kept Nyman.
Yep. Rodrigo, Barnes, Jalen Reeves-Maben, and Ben Nyman.
St. Brown, Equanimous St. Brown got cut by the Saints. Let's not sign him. I know he does a podcast with his brother, and they're kind of like the junior Kelseys or whatever, but like I don't care. Cornerbacks, Asang Bassi, Stephen Gilmore, which he was my pick to make the roster. Rashad Wildgoose, which that's just an absolutely great last name. All got cut. Safeties that got cut, Chellen Garnes, CJ Moore, which was a surprise, and Maurice Norris. And then another surprise, they cut long snapper Scott Daly. Hogan Hatton, who sounds like he's a Marvel character, like made the squad. So there is some turnover here.
Yeah.
Khalil Dorsey,
which is weird because like our long snapper up until then was the same guy for like 15 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, this is your 2024-25 Detroit Lions, everybody.
Yep. So we've got Arnold, Branch, Carlton Davis, Khalil Dorsey, Brandon Joseph, Kirby Joseph, Ife Melifonwu, Rakestraw, Amik Robertson, Lauren Strickland, and Kendall Vildor. I was kind of surprised to see him in there. How's it going, Brian and Michael? Michael, don't recognize you. Appreciate you popping in. One pride for sure.
I think I recognize him. 1 second.
I am terrible at names and faces, so it could be a thing. Maybe he was on here before. Have you been on here before, Michael? I recognize Brian's name, but so our DB room looks totally different, and really good. Like there's a ton. Michael is a known entity. Okay, Mike's a known entity. Right on. Terry and Arnold looks. I mean, gosh, like our starters are going to be solid this year.
Well, I know that I have a lot. I'm having a crush on Ennis Rakestraw. Like I'm just having, like I wasn't sure about drafting him at 29 or wherever the Lions were originally slated to draft, but at 61, sign me up, you know? So, yeah, dude, like Michael, like your name, when I saw you pop up in chat, I was like, I know this guy from somewhere. Where do I know you from, man? Yeah. What do you do? Anyway, hit us up in the chat. But like, Terry, I mean, so if these guys work out at all just to be like decent players, I mean, and like, come on. Oh, I'm glad that you're enjoying it. Thanks a lot.
Sweet, yeah.
To be honest, like Brad Holmes this is his 4th draft, right? And
yes.
How many? I mean, he hasn't missed on a ton of guys. I mean, way fewer than. Oh, I gotcha. But like, if Terry and Arnold, who shouldn't have been there, and Ennis Rakestraw, who shouldn't have been there, work out anywhere close to what we hope those guys could be, then you've got a secondary of those 2 guys plus Brian Branch at a core.
Yeah,
you know, and
you got Kirby Joseph out there flying around, right?
So I have a number of players that I'm watching to see if they'll get second contracts. I'm not 100% sure Kirby's going to get a second contract. He's not bad by any stretch, but like I think that when they took him, it was that Aiden Hutchinson, Josh Paschal, Kirby Joseph. That was that class 22, I think. And come on, Brian. But
it's not wrong.
it's been known to happen. But I'm wondering if their quote unquote ideal free safety is Kirby Joseph, because that dude just doesn't like to tackle. Anders Carlson just signed with the 2008 Lions. Oh, that's fun.
I have no idea what that screen name refers to.
I don't know either.
But appreciate you joining the chat as well.
I'm just going to call him 454. So
454. Yeah, that works.
But yeah, I'm thrilled that Brandon Joseph made the roster. Like I have liked that guy, and he spent at least a year on the practice squad. I think Amik Robertson's probably going to start off as the slot, you know, and like, is he going to give
Branch?
I think Branch will play strong safety.
He's going to pop back into safety. Yeah.
So I think my guess at the starting 5 players in the secondary are Joseph, Branch at the safety spots, and then Carlton Davis, Terrion Arnold, and Amik Robertson. And then I think it's going to be, but I think you're going to see Rakestraw get snaps. Like, I think he'll get his fair share of snaps. And like, can these other guys, like, there's going to be a battle to see, like, between like Amik Robertson, Rakestraw. I mean, where are they all going to be? You know, like Ife Melifonwu, like those three guys are going to see the field, you know? So like, one thing I'm going to be watching all year is, where do these guys line up? How many snaps did they get week 1 to week 18? Because I think that's just going to be a fascinating kind of like DB room to see how it shakes out. I think I'm already just zeroed in on it. Like, that's the thing. If that DB room can buy Aiden Hutchinson half a second, like, I think Aiden Hutchinson easily exceeds like the 11 sacks that he's gotten each of the last 2 years.
Yeah. I think Brian's got a point. Kirby's either going to sign out a mid-level type of contract, or he's going to go off in free agency. Someone will pay him, and we're going to get some comp picks.
So if that's the case, I mean, we've talked about comp picks for years now, actual years. So like, if that's the case, then somebody needs to give Kirby Joseph a decent contract. He can't just go places and sign a little piddly contract, and then we
pay the man, just not here.
Right? Like,
right?
I mean, we didn't even get a comp pick for Jonah Jackson, and Jonah Jackson signed for $17 a year. So when these guys leave, you can't sign anybody in free agency.
Yeah,
because it offsets their signings. So like, curious about Iffy's injury and how long he'll be out. Risden also said that Iffy seemed too. Oh, that's not good. Well, I mean, like, he played like a really solid like 8 or 9 games at the end of last season, right? And like, the thing that he did so well in those games was rush the passer. They had that interesting Aiden on one side, and then we're going to blitz Anzalone and then have Iffy follow him through. And then one of those two guys is probably going to get to the quarterback. And it was always Iffy, you know, and he had a couple of sacks and a couple forced fumbles. So, well, of course, I mean, like,
yeah, but
like, they haven't, I mean, like, have they signed? I mean, like, at this point, I don't know that I'm going to see Brad Holmes go $15 million on a free agent, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the kinds of signings that I expect out of Brad Holmes in the offseason are guys like Kevin Zeitler, who's 34, or who's the hurt? Emmanuel Mosley, who's been hurt, or like Marcus Davenport, who was hurt. Like, you're going to get
someone who's trying to come back from an injury season. Yeah. Someone's, give me another shot. I'll play for a little bit of a discount so I can prove, you know, that I'm worth prove
it contracts. I think that's what Brad Holmes wants to. I think we're really circling. I think that's been hit here a couple of times in chat. Like, they want to draft guys, and then if you need to plug a hole to wait for that guy to develop, then we'll sign a prove it deal, or we'll invest a little bit in a decent free agent. Remember, like, Anzalone was on a 1-year deal that first 3-win season.
Yep.
And then they signed him to a 3-year
extension. Yep.
They draft Campbell, right? They signed David Montgomery to a 3-year deal coming out of Chicago. They draft Jahmyr Gibbs, right? They trade for Carlton Davis. They sign Amik Robinson. They draft 2 corners who fell into their lap, right? So, I mean, like, the rotation that, like, I think that you can see, and like how Brad Holmes wants to build this roster is, let's go and sign some of these guys, and then we fully expect to attack a position or two somehow in the draft using our draft picks, whether that's trading
doubling them up,
drafting them. So this year, the room that I think that they are going to attack is wide receiver. Like, I think that
I think they have to.
I mean, I think that you could easily see them sign a wide receiver, and maybe Tim Patrick makes the roster and gets like a 2-year deal or something like that. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if they said, like, we're going to use our 1st and 3rd round picks on the type of wide receiver that we want to see on the roster. Oh,
Steve, yeah. No, are you sure that we won't get a comp pick for Jonah Jackson?
I'm 100% certain. So
why is that? Because he brings up the question, like, who did we sign to offset the contract?
I don't remember, but
was it the cornerbacks?
Well, we signed Amik Robertson,
right?
So here's, if you want to know about comp picks, my resource that I use to learn about this stuff is overthecap.com. So I'm not. So I'm really sorry about that, but like they're not getting a comp pick from Jonah Jackson. So if you go to overthecap.com, they do this really fun chart every year after free agency where they, thank you, Danny. Well, Davis was a trade. So they do this really fun thing where after every free agency period, they will indicate who your team lost that counts towards a comp pick and who you signed that cancels that player out. And then you have to, throughout the entire NFL, your ratio there of lost to gained has to break into the top 130 something, 30 to 50. There it is. That's exactly it. That's exactly it, Mike.
Why you have me around, Drew?
And so like this, so this is 2025's predictive comp picks. So if you scroll down to the Lions, it will show you who signed that counts, who left that counts, and what, I mean, this list on the left, projected compensatory picks, that is almost right to the last guy. They usually get a 4th rounder and a 5th rounder wrong. But like this formula is excellent. Like it's figured out. Like people have done the math on it. So I mean, you can see it right there. CFC's lost. We lost 3 guys. We signed 4 guys. So the comp pick thing is there to help bring the NFL back to parity, right? These picks are thrown out to the NFL, and there's usually enough to effectively count for an 8th total round in the NFL draft. And so they are spread out over rounds 3 through 7, and they are given to the teams that lost the most. And I think the Lions will eventually get to a place where their roster facilitates them losing quality players that are either up for contract renewals or at the end of like their second contracts, who are going into the third, who they may not just want to resign, and they're in a position to draft and develop other guys. But like the Lions are already trading future picks to stash guys on the roster for developmental redshirt seasons. Giovanni Manu, Broderick Martin, like these are guys that they have invested more draft pick capital in them than were projected to have. And they basically said, you're not playing in your first year, you're just developing. And so like, I know Manu got snaps in the preseason, but like Martin, this is his first on-field action. So like the Detroit Lions roster is just not in a position yet to generate comp picks. If they're going to get comp picks, it's going to be from something like Aaron, what's our DC's name? Aaron Williams? Aaron Glenn. I don't know why I'm having a hard time with names. But like if Aaron Glenn was hired as a head coach, the Lions would receive 2 third-round comp picks. So like that is the best method that the Detroit Lions have to receiving comp picks. But like Jonah Jackson just going off and signing for $17 million with the Rams is not going to generate a comp pick by itself. His loss is offset by the guys that they signed.
Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, like, and so maybe, you know what, Stevo, like you're right. I still could be wrong. This could be wrong. But like I am as sure as I can be that the list that Mike geniusly pulled up while I was talking, that list is going to be, I would bet my house that's accurate. That's how confident I am in those numbers, because I have watched this exact thing happen for years with an unbelievably high degree of accuracy. And so, and it tells you on this projected compensatory list who's going to get the picks and in what round, because they can figure out the math and where those players fall. So like Kirk Cousins, he's at the top of the list. You know, he signed a $180 million deal. And then of course they draft Michael Penix. Who can say what these decision makers, how they make their choices? But like, I think it's the start at least of something like if Jonah Jackson had left and they didn't want to bring in DJ Reader, Marcus Davenport, guys like that, then you're right. Then I think that like the offset in talent would allow them to get comp pick. but we're not there yet. So it's not as straight. I mean, the one thing I've learned about comp picks, because I love comp picks, is that it's just not as straightforward as I want it to be. I want it to be, you lost a guy, you get a pick for that guy. But that's not the way that it works, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's like free money, which is my favorite kind of money when it comes to this kind of stuff. Big holiday. I've tried to forget that name.
That's funny.
Yeah, so kind of back to that 53 defensive line. We got Davenport, Pascal, Kaminsky, Aleem McNeil. He's probably. I'm curious to see, is McNeil going to be the next guy that gets re-signed, or are they going to let him walk? Like, I think
he's getting signed.
I think he's going to get signed, but I'm a little surprised it hasn't happened yet.
Brad Holmes said he's the next guy up.
Yeah.
When he was interviewed in the preseason, I think it was before the first game, some reporter was like, "What about Aleem McNeil?" And Brad's quote was, "He's next up." So that's happening. And my bet is,
I think so too.
I think he's going to.
Why hasn't it happened yet?
25, because they don't have to do it now. They don't have to do it now. They can go the whole season, and then they can sign him in the. I mean, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's fine.
Well, we did that with Goff. We could have re-signed him, extended him last year, and he probably wouldn't have been $50 million. But by the time we waited and then did it, all those other ones, and he was next man up. So I do wonder if we waited too long on Goff. If they were already pretty certain they were going to do it, why didn't they do it before when it was probably a $47 million contract?
I mean, we could quibble over that, but
I was just more curious, why did we wait? If they were pretty certain they were going to do it, which it sounded like they were right from the start, they should have just done it and did it for cheaper. But
so here's the thing: even though they signed they signed St. Brown, Goff, and Sewell within the same 10-day period right before the draft, right? So I think that what you can expect from the Detroit Lions is the new league year is going to hit in the middle of March. They are going to take that month, because I'm sure that they are talking to these players' agents during the season, right? And they are, hey, what about this? Hey, what about that?
I saw Jerry Maguire. I know how it works.
Do you want player incentives, or if you hit 5 sacks, you get another $500,000, or if we make the does Jared, they work something like, hey, Jared Goff, we're going to sign you. If we make the Super Bowl, do you get $1 million? That kind of thing. I don't know how. I think that we would be shocked if we really knew what negotiating player extensions and how that process actually works.
Yeah.
I think we'd be shocked to see what it was really like. But I think the closest thing that I can say with any certainty is that I think that you will see guys like Aleem McNeil and anybody else in 2024 that they want to re-sign, sign somewhere between the 10th of March and when the draft is. So that is my guess. So I don't know about what. We can guess at what. I mean, I think McNeil's probably going to get $24 or $25 million a year. But I think I know when he's going to get signed. And it's because you want shit focused on playing during the season and not what's going on with your contract. And they probably told the guys that they want to re-sign, hey, we're gonna play out the season and we are gonna handle you. And I think that when you see St. Brown, Sewell, and Goff all get paid in the same 10-day period, you can basically say, okay, that's what happened with these guys, and they all made it. And those guys are talking to these other guys, and yeah, my agent did this, and that, and they told us this, and they're going back and talking to their agents and saying Amon-Ra, Jared are telling us this. Is this what you're hearing? Yeah, that's what we're hearing. Okay, we're confident that they're going to take care of us when they have. I mean, I'm not thrilled that he got $53 million either.
Yeah,
but
it's not team friendly by any means, but it's it's a contract. He's here, and my biggest complaint with it was just how it was structured. There were a couple years that were like really high percentage of the cap. Wasn't a huge fan of that. I would have rather it been a little bit more even, but they probably have a method to their madness because he's been doing things right as far as cap management has gone. So I will trust in Brad Holmes and assume that the years that he has a higher percentage of the cap is for a reason. I can't imagine it's not. So
his percentage of the cap. He is 10% of the cap this year, 12.5 next year, and then there's the year that you're talking about where he goes up to 24.
Yeah,
and then he goes down. Then he goes down to 17, and there's no guaranteed money in that year. So if you wanted to, you could cut him, and basically your dead money equals your cap savings.
Yeah.
And then there is one more year with no guaranteed money. And this seems weird. It says that he doesn't have a percentage of the cap next to that cap number. And then there's the void year. So because we don't have any way to project how much the cap will be in 2028. Okay, that's got to be weird.
Yeah.
So you got to remember though, the cap is going to go up by anywhere between, I think it went up over 13% this last year. And if it continues to go up at roughly somewhere between 12 and 15% every year, 12% of 255 million is not the same thing as 12% of 270 million. So the percentage that it's increasing might be relatively stable, but the amounts that it is increasing every year is creating an absolute ton of cap room. And the other thing that you can rely on is that the Lions have the third most cap space today in the NFL. And I looked this up today at work, you can roll all of that over into your adjusted cap next year. So they have built themselves a $40 million window. Now they'll probably use 10 or $15 million of that to either
Hutch.
Well, no,
Hutch is getting paid, right? So
they'll use it in season to do things like elevate people from the practice squad. Yeah. Maybe they have to sign a guy off the street or whatever. There's usually some we have to manage our roster money in there. But so if you walk into next season with an additional $25 million in your pocket, the Detroit Lions 2025 salary cap roster could be $295 million. And so this number is not factoring in the amount of their potential rollover to the next season, because you can't predict how much money they're going to use. So I don't like the fact that Goff got $53 million, but they're managing the cap in a way that completely mitigates, or not completely mitigates, but basically mitigates the impact that it has on them to be able to continue to manage the roster the way that they have been. We are used to hearing about the Eagles and the Saints, just ruining their caps or whatever. But that's not what's happening. And I don't know that you can't give all this money to these players anymore and have it be oh no, the roster's in a bad spot. $53 million, so what? Really? So what?
Yeah, when I was looking at his cap percentage of cap, it was higher than almost every other starter on a Super Bowl contending team. And part of the reason why you could be a Super Bowl contender is you can use that money to, get more good players. And if you're putting too much money into one player, then you just don't have, obviously, enough for the rest. So that was my biggest beef, because I would compare him to Burrow, Mahomes, Allen, all the guys, especially the guys that just got contract extensions this year or over the last 2 years. And only one, and I don't remember who it is off the top of my head. I've been, as you were talking, I was trying to find that. But only one player actually had a year that was a higher percentage of cap as Goff's big year. And everybody else is 17 was their highest. And I'm man, we are 7% more on our highest than anybody else's. So that was my biggest beef, was really more how it was structured. But again, he's done a really good job at cap management. Sure, there's a reason why it was that year, picked that year, probably for a reason, and we'll go with it. But that was the only real thing that I was a little annoyed with on that. And it's probably just because I just don't know the details of like what that plan is, right?
And I would be willing, feel very confident in saying by the time we are into that 2027 season where he's going to be, or 2026, where he's 24% of the cap, like my expectation is it's going to be like, okay. I mean, like, it's not going to cause a problem with how they manage the roster. So, I mean, I know his deal is unique, but Patrick Mahomes signed a 10-year, $250 million deal, and he's the 11th highest paid quarterback in the NFL today. So, like,
so
that's just crazy to me. You know,
it's
like,
it is.
I mean, so the Chiefs have not had an issue adding to their roster because of the amount of money that they gave to Patrick Mahomes. And I think the thing that will happen is the Detroit Lions are not going to have an issue. And like, I think that the way that they set up these three contracts, St. Brown, Sewell, and Goff, is their big year all hits in different years. So there will be a big year, but I think the thing to remember is there aren't two big years, and like in the same thing that would necessarily potentially compounding Dr. Detroit wavelength. You know, like, I just don't think that there is. If they keep hitting on these draft picks, it doesn't matter. Like, the amount of guys, if they can add 5 players a year, which is just a stupid number to think about. Like, if they add 4 or 5 guys a year that are going to be on rookie contracts for 3 years, this will never be a problem. It just won't be.
Yeah. And I did find some of the numbers, like Joe Burrow's contract. He's 8% of the cap, 11.2, 17.8, 17.0, 16.6. He never goes higher than 17.8. Goff hits 24.5, and his second lowest is 17.4, which is almost higher than any of Burrow's years. Herbert is very similar. He goes from 7.4 to 14.4, 16.3, 18.6. So like that's a big difference. And so as I'm looking at like his contract compared to other big named deals, I'm wondering to myself, why are we putting so much in 1 year when nobody else is doing that? And it may just be like they've got it mapped out. Sewell's going to get it this year. He's going to get the thing. And then we're going to set St. Brown's on this year. We're going to put Goff's on this year. We're going to put Hutchinson's on the following. Like, they may have that all mapped out. And they probably do, because they seem to be really good at what they're doing when it comes to cap management. But as I was just looking at comparable contracts, I was just like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make me happy. But just because I'm not happy doesn't mean it's not the right move.
I mean, anyone that has watched our show has heard me say, like, please don't pay Jared Goff. He's not the prototypical NFL quarterback. Can you please tell me what Jared Goff's superpower is? I don't like Jared Goff. Right. And like, I'm never going to be like rah Jared Goff, but like, the reality of the NFL is that if you're the next guy up and you are a player capable, that can make the fucking offense work, and he is that. Like, if they design this offense to work with Jared Goff, they did a real great job, because it does. And it's like, it's consistently performs near the top of the NFL, and he's a huge part of it. And so that made him one of the next guys up, and he got paid. And I mean, all right, I don't love it, but that's here now. And he's the quarterback, I think, for at least 2 more seasons after this upcoming one, probably more. So,
And Brian, that's exactly my point. Like, my focus was on the one thing, and I'm just like, why did we do this? And and you're right. We have no evidence that they don't have this like mapped out and they don't know what they're doing, right? So like I do believe that they do know what they're doing. I don't know what that plan is, but it's weird. I don't know why he hasn't told me the plan, but he hasn't, right? So yeah, I think he knows what he's doing for sure. But like in the moment when that first hit, and I'm like, this makes no sense to me. My first thought wasn't, oh, there's a master plan. It was just like, all right, what would my plan be, and how would I do it? Like, this isn't how I would do it. But like as I thought about it more, I'm like, okay, there's got to be a plan here. They're probably doing things and staggering them and all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
I'm not to the point, like, I know there are people out there that like Brad Holmes can do no wrong. Brad Holmes is whatever, like a god, but like he's real good. And like,
yeah.
I'm not willing to say that he can't or won't or hasn't made a mistake, but like enough has been proven to the skeptic that like I'm probably going to be like, well, if I had to bet if this coin's coming up heads or tails, I'm probably picking heads, right? Like it's come up heads a lot, you know.
It's
Heads
like,
is
hey,
good.
Brad, are you picking heads or tails?
Right. You know,
Before I flip,
you're
what
gonna-
are you picking? Because we're gonna just, we're gonna roll
I'm gonna
together,
put
ride or
some
die,
money on
baby.
whatever this guy says, you know. So yeah, I think that it was more money than, I mean, like, to be honest, I mean, they gave St. Brown more money than I thought he was worth, but like they gave it to him, and there you go. And like I think Penei Sewell earned every cent of what his contract is. So I don't know what Aiden's gonna get. I don't know what McNeil's gonna get. Like, and then I'm interested to see.
That's
I
an
mean, that's
interesting thought. Like,
that's not crazy. I mean, like,
yeah,
I have heard that if Ben Johnson has left, from beat reporters and people who are around the team all the time, that if Ben Johnson would have left, Jared Goff could run this offense as if Ben Johnson were calling it. Like it almost sounds like they are partners in both its design and implementation. And I think that, it's probably, I mean, he's probably right. I mean, like if I was Ben Johnson and I was like, oh, are we going to draft a kid or are we going to continue to roll with Jared? I know what Jared is.
yeah.
I have
I
familiarity
built
with
this
Jared.
around his pros and cons, right?
This is largely, this ship is Captain Jared's ship, like I think that I would want to know that. So, wow, only 4 wide receivers. They're signing. I mean, they signed Tim Patrick, but I wouldn't be surprised if another one snuck onto the roster at some point. So,
yeah, I was happy to see Sione Vaki on there as well. I figured he would. He really impressed me.
They didn't cut any of their rookies. I mean, they haven't ever. Yeah. I don't think they've ever cut their rookies. Won't their deals get redone soon? Whose deals?
Not Goff. That just happened. Hutch. Unless he's talking about like a restructure. I mean, that might be another thing that was planned.
First of all, Dr. Detroit, I super appreciate you putting the correct there in the chat. You don't have any idea how much your stock went up with me because you did that. That is, can I heart this? There,
no.
start.
So, like, I don't know if, yeah.
I'm super happy about that. Now, can you just tell us who you mean? Because I don't know who you're referencing here. Their deal. So if Sewell was a 4-year deal, Sewell and St. Brown were 4-year deals.
Yeah.
And Goff was a 3. So, I mean.
And maybe that's what that 24% is. Maybe that's we're going to restructure that year and it's never going to be 24%. We're going to convert some of it to salary or to signing bonus. And maybe that's also part of their plan, right? So,
I mean, the Lions have restructured deals here and there. My power is out. I'm calling it.
Oh, that's a bummer, man.
That sucks, dude. Sorry. Burrow. Oh, yeah. Burrow's deal.
He's what, 2 years into it?
I don't know. There's no way he's 2 years into it. No, Burrow is signed through 2029. Fuck. And has 3 void years on after that. So, I mean, like, I think a good rule of thumb is when the guaranteed money runs out, that is when players want to talk about doing their deal again. Like, look at Tyreek Hill.
Well, even Stafford did that, right? He's like,
Yeah.
bro, I want to be here. You want me here. Can we restructure this? And they gave him basically full season of guarantees in his contract.
Right. People don't want to play a violent game if they're not for sure going to get paid.
Yeah.
And that's hard to fault them for that. So
he runs out of guaranteed money after the 25 season.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of like, he's not, I don't think they can sign him to an extension like tomorrow.
You have to be within your last 2 years or the last 3 years of your contract.
So I don't think that considers void years. So I think the first time
I believe that's correct
for an extension would be after the 2027 season.
Yeah, I think after this one, and then it's 2 years, and then they can restructure at that point.
I mean, at some point, I know we're running out of time because like the NFL season's about to start or whatever, but like Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott are potential $60 million a year quarterbacks just because they're the next guys up.
Yeah.
And at least Dak has all the leverage over the Cowboys.
Jerry?
They can't tag him again. So it's either you pay me or I'll go to free agency. And if he makes it to free agency, that is as big of a name that has hit free agency that the market can determine what he's worth that I can remember seeing. Yeah. I mean, he's 30, I think.
Drew Brees, right? And he only went to free agency because he was injured the previous year. Right?
He wasn't Drew Brees then. I mean,
he was good, but he wasn't like...
Well, he was coming off a shoulder injury.
Yeah. Yeah. It was off of his rookie deal, if I remember right, and a shoulder injury. Yeah.
He got through his rookie deal. He was a high second round pick. He got through his rookie deal. He hurt his shoulder. And that was the Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers draft. So the Chargers ended up getting, they got a fucking haul for that. They got Phillip Rivers, Sean Merriman, and Nate Kading out of that trade.
Jesus.
And
0 championships.
Well, I mean, it's hard to win championships, right?
It's true.
Yeah, I mean,
New Orleans got the chip.
Oh, that was another thing that happened today in the NFL is that the NFL is voting. Teams are allowed to sell up to 10% of their net worth to equity firms, pre-approved equity firms. So the billionaires are going to get richer, folks. So they're going to maintain control of their teams, and they're going to get every team in the NFL. I'd be shocked if anybody didn't sell 10% of the team for.
Because why not, right?
Yeah. I think Dallas just hit their Forbes or whoever does the projecting, said that they're the first franchise in the world that's worth $10 billion, which I thought was crazy because there's Man U, out there, soccer is famous worldwide.
They're the first NFL franchise to be $10 billion.
Crazy.
Let's see how many others are in that 50 most valuable sports teams. Look, this is Dallas Cowboys are number 1. New York Yankees are number 2. Golden State is number 3.
Yeah.
The Patriots are number 4. The LA Rams are number 5.
Wow.
New York Giants are number 6. And the Chicago Bears are number 7, believe it or not.
That's crazy. Well, if you look at where those teams are, they're in huge cities.
Yes.
It's New York, LA, and Chicago, and those might be the 3 biggest cities in the United States of America.
Yeah. And Boston's no slouch either. Plus, they
had when you're
20 years of
yeah. And here's the thing.
Kraft has made a little bit of a return on investment. He paid $172 million and is now worth $7 billion.
I mean, I don't know what the return is. What is that? A 70 or 700 times their money, his money? Well, no, 100,000 goes into a million 10 times, and a million goes into a billion, 1,000 times? So it's 10,000 times his return.
The McCaskey family for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
How much did they pay for the Chicago Bears?
When did they buy it?
1920.
I'll say $300. What did they pay?
You were only off by $200.
Oh my God!
They paid $100 for it.
I thought you meant like they paid $500. It's so terrible.
$100 in 1920, and it is now $6.3 billion.
Jesus Christ!
I don't think I could find anything that was purchased for less than worth as much. So I'm going to stop looking.
Yeah, that's fine. I think you've done a good job.
Oh, the content that you come for here, right? Is sometimes it's also sports trivia.
I think that Brian here said it best. Like, really glad we finally taken care of the billionaires. That's what we're here to talk about, Brian. We're here to talk about how we, as poor internet trolls, to some degree, I know I'm more of a troll than Mike, but like, how can we talk about how the ultra rich are entertaining us, right? So it's fantastic. I mean, I wish if there was a franchise I could buy right now for $500, I mean, I would find a way to scrounge up the money. So
yeah, I think I would probably do the same thing. I'm not sure what kind of franchise it might be. I don't know. Maybe pickleball. I don't know. Is there a pickleball franchise out there?
You know what, dude? That sport is so popular. There fucking should be a pro pickleball league.
There probably is.
All my friends and their wives play pickleball. I should get married just so I have a. Yeah, Tom and his wife play, and then like my friends. Oh my God, I'm so bad with names. Stupid.
Alan play.
They do. He and Dawn play. And then my friend Chris and Christy, can you believe that? Like, they play regularly. Like, I want to get married just so I have a pickleball partner at this point. You know,
you don't have to marry him, but Danny will play. He's got paddles. He's got pickleball equipment.
I've seen Danny move. That's not gonna. There's no.
That's
chance.
True.
Yeah. Sorry, Danny, if you're listening, you're catching strays, buddy. So.
All right, man. I think we've kind of covered everything.
Well, let's preview the season a bit here. Well, who do we have? We have the LA Rams at 8:20, September 8th.
Yep. So 2 weeks
at home.
2 Sundays.
So I like Aquatic Adventures of the Wealthy lately. I want to claim you guys. Oh yeah, no. Like, I mean, like, these guys. There's no doubt that the NFL owners are like, hey. How do we print our own money? Oh, like this? Neat. Let's vote on it. Oh, it's every other billionaire in the room want to make more money? Neat. Cool.
Who wants to make more money? Ooh, me.
I don't, like, congrats on being a billionaire, I guess. Like, I
do hear that the first billion's the hardest to make.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. I guess I don't really care that they're billionaires. I guess the thing that I think that the problem that I have that I see with people knowing that there are billionaires out there is that, like, my life doesn't need to be I feel like my life doesn't need to be as hard as it is. Right. And I don't have pets or kids or other people that I am responsible to take care of. Right. So, like, it doesn't make any sense to someone who faces the types of problems that I face, that there is somebody out there who is worth millions and millions and millions of me who hoards it, like, and they do their, they do whatever they do. They have businesses. Or how is this not called the Drew and Mike podcast? Because
Chat GPT.
Well, that's
in part, right?
Well, so that's how we definitely made the logo. It was a joke.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Like, to be honest, like, I think Brian's hit on something here, is that there was that famous saying or like study done that was like a lot of like Fortune 500 CEOs, like, if you scan their brains, they look a lot like serial killers because there's just no like the remorse center of their brain doesn't light up as much as like yours and I's do. So like we feel bad when we fuck people over, right? They don't. So like when you don't feel bad about it, it's a tool in your toolbox you can use a lot more. And it turns out you can get a lot more and go a lot farther when you just don't give a shit about other people.
Yeah. When
And so,
everything's just a number.
That's the problem, right? Exactly. Like when you reduce people to numbers, it takes away like your humanity. But like, how is this not called the Drew and Mike podcast? Well, we used to have another name. Like when we started,
Do you remember what it was called?
It was the Casual GM podcast.
The Casual GM podcast.
We did like 50 episodes or something close to that under that name. And then we weren't really doing what I had envisioned. Like it became something else. And that was fine because I love what it's become. And so we were trying to find a name to more accurately represent like what we were doing. And like, if we called it the Drew and Mike podcast, I mean, if you didn't know what it was and you just saw the Drew and Mike podcast, would you want to click on it and listen to it? Like,
yeah.
One of the few rules that I try and follow, because I have another podcast too, is that which
you might as well pimp out right now.
Right. Like, so my other podcast is about Star Wars and I do it with my friend Tom, and it's called Mediocre Conversations. But like, you don't know, we only talk about one thing most of the time. So like, it's not like you can turn into the show and get a bunch of, a bunch of like, oh, we're just having like two guys chatting over coffee, two normal guys talking about name your topic, the death penalty or politics or foreign relations or like what's going on in our own lives. Like we talk about Star Wars. So like the name of the show isn't representative of what the show is about. And so when we rebranded, quote unquote, for this show, I said like, let's try and have it be something that is representative of what we're trying to talk about. And I think we stuck a bunch of ideas into Chat GPT and it vomited out a bunch of options, and we went with Building the Pride.
Yeah.
And I think it was the third option that we were given, and we were like, oh, that one. That's
I like Chat GPT. My buddy Drew and we have a podcast that's talking about team building, centered around the Detroit Lions. What would you give a name? And it gave us like a top 10 names, and it was real high up on there. And like as soon as we saw it, we're like, oh yeah, this is the one, Building the Pride. Actually, I take that back. I think that was the very first option that it had.
It might have been.
And it was just like straight up out of the blue, perfect. And I'm like, all right, I like it.
Yeah, it did feel real close to the bullseye when we saw that we might instantly inherit 1 million D&M fans. I mean, 1 million fans that want to come in, even if they came for the wrong reasons, if we kept 1% of them, I would be beyond fucking thrilled. We were stoked that we ever got to like 10 people that wanted to click the button, and I really like what our community is right now, because like the chat is engaged and they don't make fun of each other and they don't say stupid shit and they don't say terrible things to each other or about the Lions. And that's not what we're about, and so if we stayed at 100, what are we, Mike, 118?
118.
If we stay at 118, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled with the people that show up. Mike's got people that always stop in and say hi. His kid, stops in and like does stuff with us occasionally. And like, every once in a while we'll get somebody like Brian Morski or Gosford Repair or 454 or whatever that like show up and we're like, oh, hey, like new people that wanted to check us out. And like, we might get one of you guys to stick around, but like when the season starts, I fully expect that we'll have like, this will be like our second or third season where like Hatters will pop in or Dr. Detroit will pop in, or whatever. And we'll be like, hey, what's going on? And like
Donkey Kong.
Yeah. Donkey Kong. I mean, Joey 2 times used to show up, remember Joey, I used to be on a podcast before this as like a contributor. And I found that to be quite toxic. And that's what led me to want to do my own thing. And so I conned this poor bastard into helping me out. And it turns out I probably couldn't do it without him. So, yeah, I'm pretty stoked about where we are right now.
So this was the submission into ChatGPT and then the output. So I just basically said my friend Drew and I host a YouTube podcast focused on the Detroit Lions and roster construction, team building. What's a good name? And it legit said, how about Building the Pride, a Detroit Lions podcast? So I don't know how many people know a ton about ChatGPT or Gen AI, generative AI, where you just throw real world text in, ask questions, ask for things, and it comes back out written like someone who is a college graduate. Like ChatGPT has passed the bar exam, right? So like it is really, really good and super interesting. But I love the fact that like in less than 30 seconds, it gave me a name and it said, hey, the reason why we chose this is it combines the name of the team building with the team name Lions and a catchy filter, catchy and fitting title, building the pride, pride meaning, Lions. And I'm like, this is fucking awesome. And really, I was like, I'm sold.
Yeah, it took almost no time for us to be like, oh, okay, cool.
Longest distance. I think Australia is we've got Germany, right?
We got Germany, but you had it.
We got Germany, but yeah, you are a long ways further than Germany.
Wow, dude! What?
Appreciate you joining in. I was like, what time is it? He's just getting up. He's getting up.
It's gotta be.
Right? What time is it over there?
You're literally on the other side of the planet.
Yeah. But so ChatGPT for the win.
That's cool.
So, all right. So we have 10 days ish until the next Lions game, 10:30 a.m. All right. Listening at work, right on. Well,
10:30 a.m.
Appreciate it.
Wednesday.
Yes,
that'll be ahead of us, right?
Wednesday. Yeah.
Well, great, dude. I mean, we're 7 Eastern here, but like. That's awesome, dude. That's what I call a day brightener. So
right on. Yeah, that's we'll be here every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern time.
Yep.
The day before y'all. So
excellent.
Right on. We will catch everybody next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. See y'all. Peace.